This is Venezuela, a country that looks like a postcard that learned how to breathe. Emerald mountains, Caribbean coastlines, waterfalls that feel unreal, streets full of music, color, and people who still know how to laugh with their whole chest. And that's exactly why the truth is so easy to miss, because just a few turns away from the exotic beauty, there are neighborhoods where the walls are thin, the fridge is empty, and the future feels smaller every month. Here, poverty doesn't always look like a movie scene. Sometimes it looks like a bright smile hiding a hungry night, a clean shirt covering the fact that there's no running water today, a mother turning one meal into two, a young man acting confident while quietly calculating the price of survival. This is the side most travel videos don't show you, not because it isn't there, but because it's uncomfortable, because it interrupts the fantasy. Tonight, we're going behind the beauty, into the dark side of the exotic, to understand how a country can feel so alive on the surface, while so many people live one step away from collapse. And once you see it, you won't look at paradise the same way again. This documentary is presented for narrative and entertainment purposes only. It reflects social observations and human experiences, not absolute truths. When people talk about Venezuela, they often speak in extremes. They describe it as a tragedy, or they describe it as a hidden paradise. And the truth is, both images exist at the same time. Venezuela can be breathtaking. The landscapes are so dramatic they feel unreal. The culture is warm, expressive, and deeply human. Even in the middle of difficulty, people still dance, still joke, still greet strangers with a kind of familiarity that many countries have lost. But behind that beauty, there's a reality most tourists never enter, and most travel content avoids filming. Not because it's impossible to find, but because it's hard to explain in a quick montage. Because in Venezuela, poverty isn't just about being poor. It's about living with instability and learning to make life work anyway. It's the daily negotiation. What can we afford today? What do we save for tomorrow? What do we do if the electricity goes out? If water doesn't come? If medicine is hard to find? If the price changes again? And the most unsettling part is how normal it can look from the outside. You can be surrounded by beauty, tropical skies, vibrant streets, smiling faces, and still be in a place where survival is the main job. Tonight, we're not making this story for shock. We're making it for clarity. We're going to follow the contrast, the exotic surface, and the precarious reality underneath it. We'll show you what doesn't fit the tourist frame and why so many people work so hard just to stay standing. Before we continue, subscribe to Secret Journey for documentaries that reveal the hidden lives inside countries. And tell me, from which city and country are you watching this video? The postcard and the backroom. Venezuela is one of the most visually seductive countries on Earth. There are places where the sun hits the landscape in a way that makes everything look expensive, like nature itself is showing off. The coastline can feel like a secret. The mountains feel ancient. The air is warm, heavy, alive. Even the streets in many cities feel theatrical. Music drifting from somewhere, bright paint on walls, people talking with their hands, laughter that carries. And this is where the exotic travel documentary illusion begins. Because if you only follow the beauty, Venezuela feels like an unfair secret the world forgot to market properly. A hidden gem, a place that should be full of tourists, influencers, honeymooners. But if you take one wrong turn, if you step behind the postcard, the story changes fast. You start to notice the backroom reality, not always dramatic, not always loud, just persistent. A home that looks normal from the outside, but inside the family is counting every ingredient. A street that feels lively, but the conversations are quietly about prices. A person who looks strong, but their life is balanced on one fragile routine. In Venezuela, precariousness can exist beside beauty, like their roommates. And that contrast is the first thing most travel videos refuse to hold in the same frame. because it's complicated. It forces you to understand that poverty isn't always visible through dirt and decay. Sometimes it hides behind effort, behind pride, behind the human instinct to keep life looking normal, even when it isn't. Many people in Venezuela have learned to live with adaptation as a skill. You don't just go shopping. You plan it, you time it, you ask around, you compare. You choose what's possible today because tomorrow could be different. You don't just cook dinner. You stretch it, you improvise. You make decisions that tourists never have to think about, like whether to save something for later or eat it now because you don't know what tomorrow will bring. And while that sounds like survival, what makes it heavier is that it often happens quietly. People don't always announce struggle. They manage it. They keep their homes tidy. They dress with pride. They show hospitality even when resources are low. They still offer a guest a coffee even if they're counting cups. Because in Venezuela, dignity is not a luxury. It's a defense. That's part of why the country can look fine to outsiders, and that's exactly why this documentary exists. Because the real Venezuela isn't just beauty or just hardship, it's the collision of both. You can stand in front of a breathtaking view, and a few minutes later, you can be in a place where the walls are patched, the ceiling is low, and every household has its own system for coping with instability. Some families depend on extended networks, neighbors, relatives, small communities built on exchange and trust. When systems are unreliable, people build their own systems. They share information, share resources, share warnings, share opportunities. You learn which place has what, which day is better, which route is safer, which store is cheaper, which product is worth buying now. And the truth is, these invisible networks are as important as money, because in a precarious reality, stability becomes something you create together, or you don't create it at all. But here's the part that makes the contrast feel almost surreal. While some people are in survival mode, others are still living normal life. Cafes still exist, music still plays, people still celebrate birthdays, kids still go out, couples still flirt on sidewalks. The country still feels alive, and that can confuse visitors. It makes people ask, if things are so hard, why is everyone smiling? Why is the city still moving? Why does it look okay? The answer is uncomfortable, because humans are capable of adapting to almost anything, especially when they have no choice. And because Venezuela has learned how to keep life going, even when the ground feels unstable beneath it. But adaptation comes at a cost. It costs energy. It costs mental peace. It costs long-term planning. And that's the hidden truth behind the beauty. The most precious resource isn't always money. It's certainty. And in the next part, we're going to step deeper into the daily mechanics of poverty in Venezuela. How people navigate food, work, and basic needs in a reality where the rules can change quickly, and where the biggest struggle is staying human while everything feels unpredictable. The daily math of survival. In Venezuela, poverty often feels like mathematics, not the kind you learn in school, the kind you learn from necessity. How many meals can we make this week? How far will this money stretch? What can we cut without breaking the household? What do we do if something unexpected happens? Because unexpected is not rare, it's normal. And when normal becomes unpredictable, people become strategists. Food becomes planning. A household doesn't just buy groceries, it builds a system around them. People learn which items last longer, which ones can be stretched, which ones can be shared. They learn to cook differently, to replace ingredients, to improvise, to turn leftovers into something that feels like a full meal. And when you see it from the outside, it can look like creativity. But creativity under pressure is still pressure. Then there's work. One of the least understood realities of poverty is this. People work extremely hard, not as a slogan, as a daily truth. Many people in Venezuela hustle in ways that don't look like traditional employment. small selling, services, repairs, informal jobs. Anything that can produce something today, because waiting for perfect stability can be a luxury. So you see people moving constantly. Someone selling snacks, someone fixing a phone, someone offering transport, someone doing haircuts out of a living room, someone trading items like it's a second currency. And even if these jobs don't look professional to outsiders, they are the infrastructure of survival. They are the reason entire communities keep functioning. But the hardest part is the constant calculation. When everything requires calculation, nothing feels light. The bus ride isn't just a ride, it's part of a budget. A doctor visit isn't just a visit, it's a decision with consequences. A school supply isn't just a supply, it's a trade-off. And trade-offs create stress that doesn't show on the body until later. People become experts at hiding stress because stress doesn't help. Stress doesn't feed anyone. Stress doesn't pay bills, so they learn to swallow it and keep moving. That's why a tourist can walk through a lively area, hear music, see people laughing, and miss the quiet tension underneath. Because the tension isn't a scream, it's a background hum. And then there are the basic services that many places take for granted. When water is inconsistent, you plan for it. When electricity is unstable, you adapt. When public systems feel unreliable, you become your own system. People store water. They charge phones when they can. They schedule tasks around what works today. They build their day around small windows of opportunity. And again, this can look normal if you don't know what you're seeing. You might see a family washing clothes at a certain hour and think it's just routine. But the routine is designed around uncertainty. You might see people gathering at certain spots and think it's social. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's information exchange. What's available? What changed? What did you hear? Because information becomes a survival resource, and this leads to something many outsiders don't understand. Poverty is social. It doesn't just happen inside a person's bank account. It happens inside their relationships, their networks, their sense of security. When you don't have reliable systems, you rely on people. But relying on people creates its own vulnerabilities. Pride, shame, fear of being a burden. So many people become quiet. They don't want to ask for help too often. They don't want to admit what they're missing. They don't want to be seen as the one who needs. And that's how poverty becomes hidden. It is carried privately, even when it is shared widely. Now here's the contrast, because Venezuela is never one note. In the middle of all this, there is still beauty. Not just nature, human beauty. A neighbor who shares what they have. A family that still celebrates with music. A mother who makes a meal feel like love. A friend who jokes so the room doesn't collapse into sadness. And that's the second secret of Venezuela's poverty. It exists inside a culture that refuses to die emotionally. But refusing to die doesn't mean not suffering. In the next part, we'll talk about the hidden cost that doesn't show in travel videos, the emotional and psychological weight of living in precarity, and why so many people feel trapped between two unbearable options, leaving or staying. Beauty, pride, and the silence of shame. Venezuela has something that outsiders often romanticize: warmth. People talk to you, people laugh easily, people welcome you. Even when life is hard, there is an emotional generosity that makes the country feel alive. And that warmth can create a dangerous illusion. It can make suffering look smaller than it is. Because Venezuelans are often skilled at carrying pain without making it the center of the room. They've learned how to protect their dignity, how to keep their families standing, how to hold their identity even when circumstances try to shrink it. But beneath the warmth, there is fatigue. And one of the darkest parts of poverty is not hunger, it's shame. Shame is the silent violence of poverty. It's the feeling that you failed your family, that you can't provide enough, that you have to hide what you don't have. And shame changes behavior. People withdraw. They avoid conversations. They avoid invitations. They avoid asking for help even when help exists, because asking feels like a public admission that you're struggling. In a culture with pride and strong family identity, needing help can feel like losing face, so people keep it inside. And that's why what they don't show you is often not a dramatic scene. It's a private room, a quiet conversation, a moment when someone stares at a wall and tries not to panic. Because in poverty, panic is a luxury too. You can't afford to fall apart for long. Now add the exotic travel documentary layer. Tourists come looking for beauty, color, culture. They want the feeling. And the country truly has it. Venezuela can offer scenes that feel like cinema. Sunset over mountains, tropical streets, music pouring out of a window, people dancing as if tomorrow will be fine. But here's the hard truth. Sometimes people dance, not because everything is fine, but because dancing is how they keep their spirit from breaking. Joy becomes resistance, and resistance is powerful, but exhausting. This is where the emotional contrast becomes sharp. The country can look vibrant while people feel drained, and one reason is uncertainty. Uncertainty eats the future. When you can't predict next month, you stop dreaming far ahead. You start dreaming in smaller units. This week, this day, this meal, this bill. And when dreams get smaller, life feels smaller too. That's why so many young people feel trapped between two painful options: stay and endure, or leave and break your family apart. Leaving is not just a decision, it's a fracture. It's leaving your mother behind, leaving your grandparents, leaving your neighborhood, leaving your language and identity and comfort. It's stepping into the unknown with the hope that you can send help back. Many do. Many sacrifice their present to support their past. But staying is also a sacrifice. Staying means adapting forever. Staying means living inside uncertainty. Staying means watching opportunities shrink while time keeps moving. And in that dilemma, you can feel the weight of poverty in a way tourists never see. Because tourism sees moments. Poverty lives in years. Now let's talk about beauty again. Because beauty is the trap and the miracle. Nature in Venezuela can feel like a promise. It whispers, this land is rich, this land is alive, this land should be overflowing. And that contrast can create a kind of heartbreak. How can a place so rich in beauty have so much precariousness? The answer is not simple, and this documentary isn't here to solve it. But it is here to reveal the human experience inside it. And the human experience is this: people don't just need money, they need stability. They need dignity without constant defense. They need the ability to plan and breathe. In the next part, we're going to step into the physical spaces where poverty becomes visible, not as spectacle, but as reality. We'll talk about housing, neighborhoods, and the invisible geography of Venezuelan cities, where beauty and precarity live side by side, and where survival becomes a map you learn by heart. The invisible map of poverty. Every city has two maps. The map tourists use: landmarks, viewpoints, safe areas, cafes, photos, and the map locals carry in their minds: routes, risks, boundaries, realities. In Venezuela, that second map can mean survival, because poverty is not spread evenly. It concentrates, it shapes neighborhoods, it creates invisible borders that outsiders don't see until they cross them. And these borders aren't just about safety, they're about access. Access to reliable services, access to stable work, access to transport that doesn't destroy your day, access to schools, clinics, and opportunities. When access is uneven, life becomes uneven. Some areas feel vibrant, busy, alive. Other areas feel strained, fragile, improvised. And here's what many travel documentaries don't show. Some of the most precarious places are also full of community. You'll find houses built closely together, patched and extended over time, with families sharing space and responsibilities. You'll find kids playing with whatever they can find. You'll find people greeting each other loudly, because social connection is a form of protection. In many precarious neighborhoods, the street becomes the living room, because when the inside is small or unstable, the outside becomes life. But this also means privacy is rare. And when privacy is rare, stress spreads. It becomes easier to feel watched, easier to feel judged, easier to feel like you can't collapse even when you need to. So people learn emotional discipline. They keep moving, they keep working, they keep appearing strong. Now, the contrast with exotic beauty becomes brutal, because sometimes the most breathtaking landscapes are close to the most precarious realities. You can see a mountain, a coastline, a stunning sky, and still be standing in a place where the infrastructure is fragile and everyday life requires improvisation. That contrast is not just visual, it's psychological. It teaches people that beauty does not guarantee stability. And for visitors, it creates confusion. How can this place be so beautiful and so hard at the same time? The answer is in the invisible map. Beauty is not distributed as opportunity. Beauty is not the same as access. And that's why people can live next to paradise and still struggle for the basics. But again, Venezuela is never one thing. In many precarious neighborhoods, you also find something powerful: mutual support. People help each other because they have to. They share information, share food when possible, share connections, share warnings. They build informal safety nets when formal systems fail. And this is where the documentary becomes uncomfortable for the audience, because it forces you to see that poverty doesn't always destroy humanity. Sometimes it reveals humanity, but it reveals it under pressure, and pressure has a cost paid in stress, in aging early, in sleep problems, in anxiety, in the constant feeling that life is fragile. And then there's the tourist gaze. Tourists often film Venezuela's beauty because it's stunning and feels rare. They film smiles because smiles feel welcoming. They film markets, street scenes, food, music, and that content becomes a new story. Venezuela is misunderstood. It's fine. It's beautiful, and yes, there is truth there. But the danger is that beauty becomes a denial, because when you only show what's beautiful, you accidentally erase the people living in precariousness. You turn survival into background noise. And that is the main theme of this documentary: what they don't show you. Not because they want to lie, but because the full truth is harder to hold. In the next part, we'll talk about the deepest layer: how people keep going, what hope really looks like in a precarious reality, and why the country's greatest beauty might not be the landscapes at all, but the human ability to continue even when the future feels uncertain. The beauty that survives the dark. If you want to understand Venezuela, you have to understand a paradox. The country can be in pain and still be full of life, not as a contradiction, as a survival method. Because when stability is missing, people create meaning. They create routines, they create celebration, they create humor, they create community. And to outsiders, it can look like happiness. But inside, it often looks like courage. Courage is waking up and trying again. Courage is providing when resources are low. Courage is staying kind when life is harsh. Courage is refusing to let hardship steal your personality. In precarious circumstances, culture becomes a lifeline. Music becomes medicine. Food becomes identity. Family becomes structure. Faith becomes emotional shelter. And the exotic side of Venezuela, the color, the rhythm, the warmth, is not just for show. It's how people protect their spirit. But here's the darker truth. When hope is required for survival, hope can become exhausting. Because it's not passive, it's work. You have to choose it every day, even when the day doesn't reward you, even when things feel stuck, even when your plans collapse again. That's why so many people live in small hope. Not hope for a luxury life, hope for a stable life, a stable paycheck, a predictable month, a home that feels secure, a future you can plan without fear. And when you listen closely to people, that's often what they want, not fantasy, not wealth, just normalcy. Because normalcy is the true luxury of precariousness. Now let's talk about the emotional contrast again, because it's the documentary's heartbeat. Venezuela is beautiful enough to make you forget, precarious enough to force you to remember. You can stand in front of a breathtaking view and feel inspired. Then talk to someone who lives inside constant calculation and realize that the view doesn't change the reality, and yet that person will still offer you kindness. This is not romanticism, it's resilience. But resilience also has limits. And this is where the dark side becomes real. When people are forced to be resilient too long, it becomes a prison. Because resilience can become the replacement for rights, the replacement for stability, the replacement for systems that should protect people. If a society survives through resilience alone, the burden falls on individuals, on mothers, on workers, on young people, on grandparents. And that burden is heavy. So Venezuela becomes a country where many people live in a strange emotional state. They are proud of who they are, but tired of what they endure. They love their culture, but fear their future. They smile, but carry weight. And that is the full truth behind the exotic frame. Now, as we reach the end, the biggest question isn't, is Venezuela beautiful? It clearly is. The question is, what does beauty mean when people are struggling beneath it? What does paradise mean when survival is a daily job? And what happens when the world only films the parts that feel comfortable? Because if you only show beauty, you protect the viewer, but you abandon the truth. And this documentary is here to do the opposite, to hold the beauty and the precariousness in the same frame, and finally look at Venezuela with both eyes open. Venezuela is not a single story. It's a country of breathtaking beauty and relentless survival, existing at the same time. The waterfalls are real, the coastlines are real. The warmth, the music, the color, also real. But so is the precariousness people learn to live with quietly, the daily calculations, the hidden shame, the fragile routines, the feeling of being one problem away from crisis. This is why so many travel videos feel incomplete. They show the exotic surface, but not the cost underneath it. And this isn't about blaming travelers or blaming a country. It's about understanding something deeper. A place can look like paradise and still be carrying pain. The most unsettling part isn't that poverty exists, it's how easily it can be hidden behind beauty. So if you made it to the end, subscribe to Secret Journey for more documentaries that reveal the hidden lives inside countries. And tell me, from which city and country are you watching this video? Because the next exotic place you see online might be hiding a reality just out of frame. And once you learn to notice it, you never watch the same way again.